Well, at midnight last night, Azerbaijan launched devastating attacks that killed 49 Armenian soldiers. Now, that was at the time 49 Armenian soldiers was the number earlier in the day. It's probably far worse than that, could be into the hundreds now. And it all happened on sovereign Armenian soil, not disputed Armenian soil, but sovereign Armenian soil. This is the largest escalation of violence in years, and it could reignite an old conflict going back 100 years, of course. I spoke to excellent independent journalist, founder of Syriana Analysis, our friend Kevork Almassian. He just got back from Armenia, and he joined us to explain what's happening in this new potential war zone. Kevork, welcome back to the show. I want to start with asking, why is Azerbaijan carrying out these attacks?
First of all, I think it is an understatement to say that 49 Armenian soldiers died during this operation, because the Azerbaijani armed forces launched a very large-scale military offensive yesterday using missiles, drone attacks against Armenian positions. I think the number exceeds the 200, but the Armenian side doesn't want to mention all these casualties at once in one day. In my opinion, there are several reasons why Azerbaijan is attacking Armenia. First of all, we have to know that there are currently negotiations happening between Azerbaijan and Armenia to normalize the relations after the Second Artsakh War in 2020. And every time Azerbaijan raises the bar of the demands or the preconditions during the negotiations, and Armenia wants to negotiate on these topics, right? Azerbaijan attacks Armenia or in even the independent region of Nagorno-Karabakh in order to practice pressure on Armenia and force it to compromise. And because Azerbaijan is a much stronger side, it is a very rich gas-rich country, and they have an open bridge of weaponry coming from Tel Aviv, like every day, during the conflict, because Israel is supplying Azerbaijan with high-tech weapons and technology, and even advisors and trainers. And there are a few reasons for that. One, from the American point of view, Russia is now in trouble in Ukraine, and their advances have stopped at some point, and they are retreating from some of the towns and cities in southern Ukraine. So they want to increase the tensions in the Caucasus, because between Armenia and Russia, there is a mutual agreement. And if Armenia is attacked, Russia is obliged legally to defend Armenia.
That's under the Collective Security Treaty Organization.
Yes, the
right?
CSTO,
Right.
exactly. So at the moment, Russia is not in a position to intervene militarily in anywhere around the world, right? So so we have to see the timing of this attack, why it happened from the American point of view. From the Israeli point of view, Israel perceives Azerbaijan as an advanced satellite state for Mossad. And the spies of Mossad say themselves that they feel themselves home in Baku. There are no restrictions for them to work and operate in Azerbaijan. And why is that? Because they want to spy on Iran, the neighboring country of Azerbaijan. And because in northern Iran, there are hundreds of thousands of ethnic Azerbaijanis, and Israel wants to trigger a separatist movement in the north through these communities. So they infiltrate these communities, and they urge them to rise against the Iranian government. So from both sides, we can see Azerbaijan is playing a proxy role for the Americans and for the Israelis.
It's like a broken record in this proxy wars. Like how many?
Exactly.
Where have I heard this before? How many times have I heard this? Where we use these countries, where the United States and NATO uses these countries, Israel uses these countries, and we use these as a means of proxy to carry out our own means.
Yes, but remember, Clayton, were it not for the current deals between the European Union and Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan would not have felt strong enough economically to launch this operation in a sovereign Armenian territory. Because when we say 2 years ago, when there was a conflict between the independent region of Nagorno-Karabakh, the ethnic Armenians there, and Azerbaijan, This wasn't internationally recognized Armenian territory, but this is a sovereign Armenian territory. And this attack comes just one day after the Minister of Energy of Azerbaijan, he bragged about the gas deals between the European Union and Azerbaijan, and says the influx of or the flow of gas from Azerbaijan will increase 30% to Europe at the end of this year. So Azerbaijan feels protected economically, and at the same time feels protected militarily by the United States and by Israel. Therefore, Armenia, which is sandwiched between two hostile countries, Turkey and Azerbaijan, they don't have the means to protect themselves. They don't have a gas to improve their military. They don't have any high-tech manufacturers or companies that they can be relevant, let's say. They just have an important geopolitical location. And if we remember the history, just 100 years ago, when there was an ethnic cleansing by the Neo-Ottoman Empire against the Armenians, and around 1.5 million Armenians perished there, right? So what is left from Armenia now, the historic Armenia, is around 20-25% of historic Armenia. And what stops Turkey and Azerbaijan of having a continuous geographical connection between them is just Armenia. So,
Right.
in my opinion, unfortunately, the current leadership in Armenia is also should be blamed because they have prioritized everything but national security. And in my opinion, as someone who studied international relations, I think the 101 of any leader is to secure the borders of his nation and make sure that he can deter any foreign intervention in Armenia. And unfortunately, the current Prime Minister of Armenia, who came after a color revolution in 2018, he wants to destroy the national identity of Syria. He at the beginning he was anti-Russia, and he was anti-Iran. So, but only too late after 2020 he understood that he lives in the Caucasus and not in Canada or in the United States, so that he can make alliances with these countries. But I think it is too late right now.
Turkish President Erdogan this afternoon saying that the only way peace can be achieved is if Azerbaijan has total territorial integrity. Is that true? Is that the only way that peace can be achieved? What does territorial integrity look like? I mean, I guess from the Turkish perspective, but what does it look like from the Armenian perspective?
I think from the Turkish perspective, the territorial integrity of Azerbaijan means a complete annihilation of the Armenians there. And I'm not saying this as an understatement, because the Turkish side, until this moment, they refuse to recognize the Armenian genocide. And whoever refuses to acknowledge the historical, I would say, crime that their ancestors have committed against the Armenians, they will repeat similar crimes now and in the future. And this has happened a few times in the region, where there were Armenian towns or communities, and all the towns of the Armenians in eastern Anatolia now, all of them are Turkified. All the names are changed. All the churches and the cultural sites are destroyed by Turkey. Therefore, in my opinion, what's the definition of territorial integrity is irrelevant for me, because in my opinion, the ultimate goal is to either completely annihilate the Armenians from the region, or the more practical one is to have a complete hegemony over the Armenians through economic means, through political means. And as I mentioned, and I'm saying this with a heavy heart because I'm an ethnic Armenian myself, but the current leadership in Armenia is also to be blamed, because at the moment they like the national identity of Armenia, they equate it to fascism. And we all know that nationalism in Armenia is a defensive mechanism to unite the people against one enemy, right? It's not an expansionary ideology that you want to expand outside the territories of Armenia. So when you divide your country and destroy the national identity, and you start spreading sub-identities within your communities, there will be division in the Armenian among the Armenian people, and the government is responsible for that. And because of their I would say anti-Russian stances, why would Russia defend Armenia? This is an important question. People say why Russia isn't defending Armenia, and if we see the history in the past 3 years since Pashinyan came to power, it's very sad. Like he can see in Trudeau his ally, his ally. He can see in Biden his partner, and not in Putin, because lots of people are so politically they're blinded by political correctness nowadays that they want to look like a cool leader and not the true leader of his own people. So this is the result of following the unfortunately I'm saying the American path. When you are geographically located in the Caucasus and you're in the backyard of Russia, and you know that you're in a sphere of influence of Russia. And nowadays, the prime minister, after he understood all his mistakes, yesterday he called Russia and he asked for help. And I think the CSTO will intervene diplomatically to stop this conflict between the both sides and sign on a truce. But if you ask me personally, I don't think this is going to be the last clash between the both sides. And I think Azerbaijan will continue its aggressive policies until the Armenians understand that they have to take deterrence measures. And I'm not someone who want to have wars, but when you are prepared for war, you can also prevent the war. And Armenians, they are not preparing for war. They're prepared. They say we have to cook for our enemy. We have to make peace with the enemy, even without recognition of the Armenian genocide. So when you disrespect yourself and you disrespect your history, how do you expect your enemy to respect you? And I'm not talking about the entire Armenian nation. Of course, the government in Armenia, right? How can you sign on a normalization treaty with Turkey and Azerbaijan without asking them to recognize at least the Armenian genocide that their ancestors have committed against? 1.5 million Armenians died. 3/4 of our nation is gone. So you have to prepare for the war. The Armenians should mine their important border crossings with Azerbaijan. They have to direct their weapons on the gas fields of Azerbaijan, not hitting them, but threatening them. If you attack our sovereign nation, we will stop the flow of the gas to Europe, right? Because they have the means to do that. But during the last war between Azerbaijan and Nagorno-Karabakh, the prime minister of Armenia went on TV and he said a very big lie about the Russian weapons. And he said the Iskander missiles that the Russians supplied to us, when we fired them, only 10% of the warhead is exploding. The rest, it's like a joke. It's like a joke. For me, sorry, I'm not a military expert, but there is no warhead that can explode 10% of its capacity, and the 90% stays on the soil, right? So unfortunately, we have a weak leader, a guy who came after a color revolution. He's one of the Soros guys, and if Armenians want to immunize themselves, the 101 is to start from your own internal house.
I want to ask you before we let you out of here is on the Western media response to this. It was amazing to see. First of all, a friend of the show, Lindsay Snell, had tweeted this. I thought it was interesting. She pointed out Secretary Antony Blinken's response to Vladimir Putin, and I thought this was spot on. Yeah, so his response to Putin and latest moves inside of Russia, where President Putin and the Kremlin will not commit these systematic abuses with impunity. We are holding the perpetrators of these atrocities to account. The U.S. and our partners will not be silent. Ukraine and its citizens deserve justice. And then this news on the attack inside of Armenia overnight, 4 hours ago, Antony Blinken tweets this: the United States is deeply concerned about reports of active hostilities between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Like, deeply concerned. That's about it. That's the Western response.
There is a Twitter account on Twitter. The title is "The EU is concerned." Like every time the EU is concerned,
the EU is
the United States is concerned. Yeah, deeply concerned. And today, also Toivo Klar, he is the EU Special Representative for the South Caucasus. He tweeted saying the fighting along the Armenian-Azerbaijan border, and the reported intense shelling need to stop immediately. The EU is in close contact with the sides contribute to the de-escalation. He doesn't even mention who is shelling who,
Right. He
and
calls it
which
fighting.
part is
It was an unprovoked
fighting.
attack, right? So
It's like as if there are no two sides, no mention of who attacked who and which towns are being attacked. Because if you see the map of the conflict now and the geolocations, there is no place that the Armenians bombed inside Azerbaijan. All the bombings happened inside the sovereign Armenian territories, including near Lake Sevan and all the borders into southern Armenia. And if you see as you mentioned, the Western mainstream media coverage, some of them are even confusing Armenia with Nagorno-Karabakh. So it's not only a matter of journalists who are not interested in covering the issue, but they're also ignorant about the Armenian case, and they think this is about Nagorno-Karabakh. No, this is about the national Armenian sovereign territories and not about Nagorno-Karabakh. They don't even know the difference between them. And unfortunately, the officials in the West, now also in Germany, very few politicians and member of parliaments condemned, and this member of parliaments who condemned this Azerbaijani aggression because it's politically incorrect to support them, so we don't shed light. Because if you support such cases, for example, Sarah Wagenknecht, she is from the left party. They call her a conspiracy theorist. So they want to deplatform her. They want to silence her from the media. And if other politicians say anything regarding NATO or the Azerbaijani and Turkish aggressions, they call them anti-Islam. They call them right-wing fascists, etc. So there are always ways to silence these people and make them irrelevant to the public. Nowadays, in my opinion, one of the best German politicians she's Sarah Wagenknecht, and when you just click her name now on Google, you will see countless number of articles calling her conspiracy theorist and calling her Putin's puppet, and she's on the payroll of Putin. So yes, there is democracy and freedom of expression, but you will pay a high price if you say anything that we don't agree with, and
Right.
they will send you into an invisible prison. It's a media prison because they commit a character assassination. They completely ruin your reputation so that you cannot become a politician again or be re-elected again. And after that, who will hire these people? How can these people work again in their careers, right? So it's an invisible prison. They send you into this prison and your career is over. Yes, you can speak, but there will be consequences.
I know I said that was going to be my last question, but I just have to ask you, what do you think Vladimir Putin does if these tensions continue to escalate?
I think Russia has enough leverage to stop this conflict. They have peacekeeping forces in the region. They're not gonna walk like a free walk into the trap that Azerbaijan is planning for Russia. And at the same time, if the only time I think the Russians would intervene if there is an existential threat on the Armenians in Armenia, and Armenia formally asks Russia to intervene, because Russia cannot also tolerate losing Armenia in that region. They're trying to regather the former Soviet Union countries, at least internally, in order to be part of any economic projects in the Eurasian side or in the CSTO, militarily speaking and economically speaking. So Russia cannot tolerate that, but also Iran cannot tolerate that. This is very important. People aren't talking much about Iran, but I think Iran is more enthusiastic to defend its borders, and they don't want to have any change in the borders, because they know if such a change happens, the border crossing with Azerbaijan will be practically with Israel, and that is a very big red line for Iran, and I think they will also intervene even militarily to stop any changes on the borders.
Excellent analysis as always, and thank you for educating our audience on this and making sure that our audience is not ignorant like the rest of the Western media. Kevork, always great to see you.
Thank you, Clayton.
Fresh from a trip to Armenia. and recovering also from coronavirus. So thank you for doing the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Clayton.